Okay, we are recording. So at this point, I think it's time to start looking at some of the classes in the editor. There's way too many to go over all of them, but one that I can start with is the main method here in MainEditorPanel. This creates a JFrame, creates a MainEditorPanel, sets the content pane, sets the size, sets it visible, and obviously there you go. So let's get into the editor here. Sorry, the constructor. Create a list of event flag data objects. These are essentially the event flags on the back end, and event flags are stored at the MainEditorPanel level. Let's see here. There's a window listener here so that when it's closing down, we can double check to make sure that the user really wants to shut down. Can show a confirm dialog that says, do you really want to exit? If no, then just return. If yes, close all the windows. And I do have a room list there. I'll have to go into that soon. If there are any busy panels, we end to that. And just to make good and sure we're done, system.exit. So back to the constructor here. I use a grid bag layout, and I don't entirely remember how grid bag layout works, but essentially it lets you lay out the screen however you feel like. Start with a border layout, have the 4 lower buttons there, save, load, new, and exit. Put those in the lower buttons panel and add that to the main panel. Or I should say to the main editor panel. We also have a J panel called main panel in there. Use the grid bag layout for that, and I don't know why I initialized grid bag layout before all this other stuff if I'm just using it here. Oh well. Have the tabs here. The first panel you see is the room list, and most of the action is going to be in the individual room editor panels. Encapsulated in a scroll pane, set the dimensions on that, set the fields for the grid bag constraints. Got a mouthful of marbles here, add that to the tabbed pane. Wait a minute. Okay, good. The tabbed pane is actually added to the main panel. I was afraid for a minute that we don't ever actually use the grid bag constraints, but we do. So the character list is obviously in another tab. And the globals, which includes the event flags button here, there's room for expansion there. Probably the next feature that I'm going to work on coding is going to be emotions. The ability to show little emotions in the faceplate that's in the dialogue system. I mean, the way it is now, you could have a smiling Twilight face say, "I'm so glad we could help you find your lost puppy," and you would also have that same smiling face say, "I'm so sorry that you lost your home in a flood." And probably her face should change as the emotions in the dialogue changes. And I think it'll help the game come to life a lot better with those emotions, so that's the next thing that I plan to work on. And you'll be able to define what emotions you're going to have. In fact, there's going to be a hierarchy of them. You can have default, which is just the smiling face. You can have happy underneath that, sad under that, angry, afraid. But then you can branch each of those out. Under happy, you can have surprised, you can have laughing. Under sad, you could have crying, you could have sympathetic. Under angry, you could have gnashing your teeth, you could have suspicious, and I don't know what all else. You get the idea. There could be a hierarchy. And if you've got an image for happy but don't have one for surprised or laughing, then as soon as the dialogue command says make the emotions happy in this dialogue, or sorry, make the emotions laugh in this dialogue, then it would basically go down the tree. If if the user hasn't actually defined a laughing dialog faceplate, then it goes to happy. If they haven't defined a happy one, then it goes to the default. But why am I talking about this future development in a code walkthrough? I probably shouldn't. Anyways, we add the globals tab to the tabbed pane. Then finally we add the tabbed pane to the main JPanel. Then at the bottom I have the other controls. And for that one I just use a grid layout, which is 5 rows and 1 column. Let's see here. This one has 1 row and 2 columns. I add show help there. And why exactly do I bother to give... oh, right. Basically, this is just here. I wrap the J button inside a panel with a flow layout. That helps the button look nicer. Otherwise, it's just going to completely fill up the J panel or the slot you give it in its J panel. So, tutorial videos and version history get added in the level 1 panel. Add that. Add another J panel, which is just plain for filler. Row 3, I have controls talking about the level name. Row 4, I've got the background music there. And there's a browse button that lets you set it. The final one, I have that rain checkbox. Now, probably I'm going to set things up so that rooms can be set to have rain or no rain. But probably I'll keep this here so that it's by default whether a room has rain or not. Let's see. I have no idea why I add a new J panel there. Guess it doesn't matter much. Anyways, I changed the grid bag constraints a bit. Add the other controls to the main panel, and then add the main panel in the center of the main editor panel. Obviously, a lot of the action goes on. Okay, I got some time left so I can talk about the room list. A lot of the action goes on in the room list, at least in this class, and actually room list is a different class, so what am I even talking about? So, got the main panel there. Got room list items, also have an add panel, and I call it the add panel even though it's got both add room and set starting room on it. Let's see here. Probably I should jump into room list item here. Well, you know what? I can show you how the add panel works and why I have this as a separate panel that's also an instance variable inside the room list class. Let's see, right here I have, this is the button, this is the method that gets called when you click the add room button. First we have the new room setup wizard, which asks you for details about the room, things like the dimensions of the tiles. Those can be different in different rooms. I haven't made use of that so far, but it's true. The default size of it, the default colors, that kind of thing. Anyhow, once the wizard comes back, if it wasn't canceled, then we create a new room list item, and it obviously draws a bunch of parameters out of the wizard. Remove the add panel, add the new room, and then add the add panel back in. That keeps the add room and set starting room controls at the bottom of the list. And the, let's see, the room list item has a room editor panel attached to that. I'm probably not going to get into room editor panel today, but that is the panel that pops up when you click the edit button. And it automatically pops up when you've added a new room. Obviously, set visible true here. And since I've got a little time, I might as well go into the characters list as well. Very similarly, I have a character list item. And once again, I have an add panel which has add character and remove character on it. And once again, action performed. This is the method that gets called when the user clicks the add character method. Let's see, pop-up character select dialog. I should probably call this pop-up letter select dialog or something. Character, when you're coding, the word character can mean a single symbol. Like the letter A is a character, the number 1 is a character, a period is a character, a space is a character. It's enough space to hold one letter, one symbol. And this /O is sort of an escape sequence for the null character in Java. New character equals null, that essentially means the user canceled. And basically what's going on here is the user is deciding which key you press to switch to the character. To switch to the playable character, I should say. If it's taken, then we say the key you entered was already taken. Try another. And I misspelled retry. Well, that's some technical debt for you. Then we pop up this player character editor panel, which I think has, well, it's got some tabs on it and everything. I don't know whether it's really necessary to get into that. Probably I'll get into one panel that shows up often whenever I have any graphics to do, and that would be custom animation panel. Alright, so essentially it pops this up. I don't think that the player character editor panel is contained inside the character list items the way it is with room list items. Anyways, that gives you an overview of the main panel. I'll get into room editor panel next time.